Channels.
On all the platforms,
Dude,
even the coveted LinkedIn one.
I'm getting voice jammed like a mother bear.
Can you do a mute? Let me see if you can do a mute. If you swipe down. No, you can't do that.
It's so weird that it like won't shut all the way off. Whatever.
Oh, I can hear the reverb too now.
Yeah, that's all good. Not the end of the world. Somehow mine's not stopped now. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Instagram. Okay, cool. Sweet, man.
So what are we talking about today, Rex?
Dude, I don't know. Business. The
business.
of owning a business and making content and building a brand, dude. So I'm on one end of that spectrum of like helping businesses and people and CEOs and folks like you build brands and make content. And you're on the other end where like you're doing it for your own company and hiring me to help you every now and then. So figured we'd just talk about that.
Yeah, no, we've what did we meet? Probably 5 years ago now, maybe 6.
It's been a long time. Yeah, it's back in the Silencer Co days. So
yeah, I think you were Silencer Co. It was the it's when you guys launched the Maxim 9. I remember that was a big deal at SHOT Show that year. So whatever year that was, I think is when we.
Yeah, I want to say 2016 maybe.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, dude, time flies.
I know.
I've done a lot of different things since then.
A little more gray in the beard. You've moved like 3 times since then.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I mean, we're streaming on Nishan's channels and my channels. So those of you that know Nishan probably don't know me, and those of you that don't know or that do know me probably don't know Nishan. So anyway, Nishan, he doesn't have a gunfighter shirt on, but Nishan is what are you, co-founder and CEO?
Yeah, I think Gunfighter Canyon today.
Yeah, I think that's what we call it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the trend of what the C-suite guys think that it needs to be on LinkedIn. 65 Creedmoor saying that Gunfighter audio is not working on Instagram. 65 Creedmoor.
I can hear you. I can hear you on my Instagram.
Okay. Maybe I'm sure. See, Creedmoor is only able to send that message through. Through Instagram. So okay, all right. He says we're good.
It is now. Cool.
Localization.
65 Creedmoor. I think that's Calvin. Let me know if that's you, Calvin. I think he runs the 65 Creedmoor page. Calvin Presswitch, one of my bros from Utah.
Oh, Utah peeps.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep. So right. I'm gonna go check all the feeds right now. I'm gonna actually put them in this window so it doesn't look like I'm looking as far off. Because sometimes the comments come in and sometimes they don't. So we've got Nick Brown. Nick Brown is a guy that knew Joel from Precision Rifle Network and followed me over to all the streams. He's I don't know, some sort of cool special policeman in England. So he's watching from across the pond.
He's a Brit with a gun.
Frankly, everything on Frank Herrera. He owns a company called, I think, Caveman Tactical or Caveman, something like that. Nishan, I don't know if you've heard of those. They're like little barrel bands that change color when your barrel gets hot.
Oh, cool.
Kind of cool deal there, but he's into photography and content stuff, so kind of fun.
Right on. Caveman Tactical. Oh yeah, that's cool stuff. Right on. We'd burn a lot of stuff off, I think, if we put them on any of our guns for too long. Yeah, so we've had you out a couple times. You've done some offsite shoots for us. You've done on-site shoots for us. We've done a lot of collaborative work that, as most startup guys understand, rarely ever see the light of day. But I think that's you just wait for that one thing to kind of take off and invest more time and resources into it. But one of these days we'll get something fun to take off that we're collaborate on besides just you helping us with our branding
Yeah.
and in media. So
Yeah. So, I mean, talking about, content creation, I mean, what's one of the biggest things that you've seen kind of change in your brand as you've incorporated kind of professional content versus just like cell phone stuff or whatever, I mean, cell phone content can be pretty good anymore.
yeah.
But I think there's still a pretty significant difference when you get all the fancy lights and cameras and stuff in. So just kind of curious from your perspective, what was the change in messaging that kind of helped you out with?
Yeah, I think the big thing is we look better. No,
Yeah.
it's hard to make some of us look any better than what we have to work with. But just to have a polished, finished product that can go out to the masses, I think makes a big difference from just typical, iPhone, Android footage. I think where you and I have more of our discussions with, and I think it'd be kind of fun to kind of delve into that realm, which is how much of this needs to be glossy and really nice versus that right there, the instant, the momentary conversation or the cool content that you capture on, like for us inside the shooting range with
Yeah.
with machine guns and or like unpackaging, a million rounds of ammo, right? Like
Hmm.
that's kind of stuff you can't plan for. Like it just happens when it happens.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think having a guy like you come in with Stoke and just create consistency is probably the biggest thing that I've seen that I like about my brand.
Hmm.
That's gone better is there's more consistent theme. Um, and if we can keep that going when you're not available, then it,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah, so that's kind of one of my biggest missions, I feel like to the world right now is like everything is switching to video. All of the social platforms are prioritizing video content. And, I'm only one guy. I only have so much reach with the people in my network to create content for brands. And certainly I can scale that and grow to where I'm more available for people. But really where I see a lot of the value is coming in and showing people how to create content that's close to being on par of what I can do, so that when you do have those impromptu moments of, oh, we just got 10 pallets of ammunition came in, we need to talk about it. You can post something that's still on brand enough to where it's
yeah.
not like, what was that,
Yeah, and it's almost like you take that to the next level, and it's almost a train the trainer piece, right? So you're
Yeah.
you're saying, hey, grab so and so who's good with the camera. They've got the latest greatest iPhone, or you've got a basic SLR, DSLR. Like this is how I want you to capture it, so you can take that brand and carry it on for us, over and over and over again. When you talk about reusing content, but yeah, I think that's super important.
Yeah, I think it's important to just have a lot of content, and certainly having somebody on site all the time to capture all of the moments is pricey. I mean, you and I have talked about some cool ideas there,
Yeah,
with kind of creating a Duck Dynasty style TV show of
yeah,
Gunfighter Canyon, and like having, episodic YouTube channel where we have all the personalities from the range and highlight all of the shenanigans. And man, I think something like that would be really, really cool. But at the same time, like just the cost of doing that to a semi-professional level of production is pretty, substantial enough that it kind of makes it impossible for most smaller brands to achieve something like that.
yeah, and that's like a cost realized where you have to say, well, how long is it going to take for me to get some of that cash back? If I'm going to invest, something like that could be in excess of 15 grand a month.
Yeah.
And for little guys like us, that's a huge chunk of change to dedicate to a platform or just a business venture in general that you're not sure is going to take off or even repay yourself, be able to have that realized cost back. So,
Yeah.
um,
And
yeah,
even if you do get anything back from it, I mean, it's going to take a while to realize any of that. It's not like you just
mhm.
go from 0 to 10 million people watching your videos overnight.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've got Frank over here talking about Caveman saying that they, went full time just went full time. It takes that long. And, I've been fortunate enough to, I was kind of 3/4 time with the business when we first started.
Yeah.
My main business partner and I, Stuart, were able to, finagle a way to keep me out of our other business for the most part and just focus on Gunfighter. But, now I'm like 95%, this soaks up most of my time, and which is where we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And you're at that break point where it's like, okay, we need to start taking salaries and making this thing run. And those costs, those advertising costs, or actually brand building costs, you start asking yourself, well, which one should I invest in? Make sure we're paying the bills over here, or dumping into some brand specific work.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, on your business trajectory, I mean, you've been doing Gunfighter Canyon for 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah, this is our 5th year.
Okay.
We just wrapped up. We're in October now, so you could officially say we've just wrapped on our 5th year, our
Yeah.
5th season, which is a pretty cool milestone. It's the brand itself. We want to keep this conversation more brand centric. It's not changed a ton, and I don't know if you can pull up maybe our logo on a side piece here, but
Yeah.
our logo's gone through a couple real basic revisions. So from, the essence of where the brand starts, and, you and I agree wholeheartedly on this, that a brand is not a logo.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a vessel that your brand can start from. And as a big media guy, I broke my teeth. I cut my teeth working for CBS, and you talk about big brand management, and that logo, I think, becomes more and more important. But, for us, it was important to have that logo continue to evolve into something that stays relevant. And for us to get away from it right now would be very costly, both financially and in just time to reinvent that. So,
Yeah. I mean, me being a designer and kind of branding person on my own, like I kind of have that flexibility, at nighttime when I'm just goofing around, I can toy around with my own brand
yeah,
and kind of tweak things and change things and go from a all caps Stoke to a lowercase Stoke. And it's like, whatever, I can play around with it a little bit and kind of keep it within the same language, but just toy around with different ideas and stuff. And it's pretty crazy how significant one little tweak to a logo, how much that costs in time,
yeah,
right? I mean, you don't think about it, but you're recreating all of your social media banners, all your social media icons,
yep,
all of the
yep.
logos that are all over all of your internal documents and external documents and QuickBooks logos. And I mean, it's like a full day's worth of work for a designer to like design stuff
Oh
and
yeah.
then implement it when you tweak something,
And I
So,
think
and
that's
that's
where
on a
we.
small scale, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You think like a big scale where it doesn't just affect digital footprints, right?
Yeah.
And for us, we've got, we own 4 different billboards now.
Hmm.
Um, and so to change copy on a billboard, outdoor creative is a huge pain, a huge cost incurred.
Hmm.
And a couple of them are in areas that are, require like tribal approval to change stuff on. So
Yeah.
literally an act of some sort of a Congress
Yeah.
to get some of that stuff changed. So yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time internally, like just changing store hours or wanting to, refresh a logo on YouTube or our
Hmm.
website. That's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Um,
Brand
and
management.
it literally is a full-time job. And so, to be able to, I think, budget that and say, hey, Rex, I need you to handle just the brand management side. Boy, what a, taking a burden off of my shoulders for something like that would be just massive. So maybe someday we'll get to where it's a full-time deal. I mean, I think we do have, a contract. I think I can share that with everybody here between Stoke Media and Gunfighter. So you do work for us
Yeah.
every month,
Yep.
but definitely not in a full-time capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the coolest things of for me, like having the opportunity to work with, smaller companies, like really small companies, and then, schmedium companies. I think you've kind of grown out of the small business to becoming a schmedium business, and then working with some really large organizations all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really fun and exciting to kind of see the differences in how all of those organizations operate. It's really hard to steer the ship in a large organization. I'll do a design and it'll go through a approval of like 10 people, and I'll get feedback from 3 or 4 different people, and it's all different feedback. And then I'm like
Right.
trying to weed through who wanted what, and ultimately go with what the top dog says, and stuff like that. So it keeps me agile and nimble, but at the same time, I really enjoy working with smaller organizations where you and I can just have a conversation, and then I go for it, and then we're done. And kind of having that quicker flash to bang is pretty fun.
Yeah. Do you
And
ever think that you could, or you would want to just work with large platforms? Or do you feel like that would stifle some of your creativity, as a creative, as a
yeah,
designer?
I don't think I would ever like cold turkey quit working with small businesses. I mean, one of the things that I enjoy the most is that kind of foundational formative branding, that happens, and
Yeah.
the content that goes into that, and all of the work that goes into understanding your customers and building your messaging and kind of establishing all of that is something that I really enjoy. So unless I become some kind of mega organization, I'm not going to get to do that work with any large brand. Coca-Cola is not going to hire me to redo their branding.
Right.
Um,
Right. Well, they could,
so
but yeah.
they could. It's all about who you know, I guess, right? But no, I really enjoy kind of those formative years within an organization where things are nimble and quick and agile and fun and responsive and a little bit disruptive. I don't have a very serious personality, so it's, I don't know that I function super great within, stuffy corporations, which, probably largely contributed to why I'm no longer in the corporate world.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I really love doing my own thing and kind of working with other companies that are kind of in that same vein of making content and just kind of doing their own thing and, pricking against the grain a little bit. So I don't know. I'd like to find a sweet spot where maybe I have a few larger clients, because they certainly have more budget, right? And it allows me to have a little bit more creative license because I can afford
Yeah.
to hire
Yeah.
more people and bring on more talent to projects and stuff like that. So I think, big clients and big organizational stuff is good, because, with that revenue comes opportunities to take more passion projects or help people out that maybe can't really afford what I would normally cost, but I can
Yeah.
do it because I've got, bases covered. So um, I'd like to be able to find a balance, but, certainly keep lots of schmedium companies in the quiver.
No, I think you're right, man. It's too easy to get sucked into, the super long term projects and not be right there where you can make decisions and run and continue to build. It's tough. It's tough when I think when you're, and it's just a different style of management. And when Coke knocks on your door and says, "Hey, we're ready for a brand refresh," you'll be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And certainly, all of the experience that you get helps you be ready for those larger, those larger deals. I had a pretty cool call today, just based on my own content and the own branding that I've been doing and my efforts on LinkedIn of just posting content and helping people out as much as I can. I had somebody reach out today that was like, "Hey, I've got this, I just got a new job. I'm the marketing director in a startup. We're funded, so we have a budget, and like I want to talk about doing some stuff." And we're talking like a $300,000 budget. I'm just like, "Whoa, this is cool." So having the skills and the branding to where someone with that kind of a budget can call me up and they feel confident that I can accomplish what they're trying to do, and then having me be able to walk the walk and talk the talk and then be able to produce for them
Right.
is, pretty cool for me coming from engineering full time a year ago.
Oh, right.
So for me, that's pretty exciting, and a reaffirmation that like I am good at what I do.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. No, and I think that's what's super cool. So, I mean, our relationship started just, my business partner, Stu, knew you from when you lived, you're geographically close in Arizona. And she's like, "Hey, come meet my buddy who works for Silencer Co. at SHOT Show." And, that's where you and I kind of hit it off. And obviously I was, your time at Chancerco was, you weren't like the big fish in a big pond there, right? And I
Yeah.
think when you moved to Gunworks at that point, I think you and I just started talking about branding a little bit more.
Hmm.
But that evolution of, you're now running your own business. From that point, I was not a customer in that realm. I
Yeah.
mean, I was
Yeah.
a Gunworks customer and I was a Sansevier customer,
Yeah.
different ways. But
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's cool that those relationships, and it's in every industry, right? I mean, I'm a military officer, so that, you meet people that you've worked with in the past, and you constantly, your reputation follows you. So clearly, you've done a good job, I think, at maintaining that, and that's what's been fun. Is you even can introduce me to folks that I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to meet that guy and see if we can do some projects together. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been a fun transition for me, coming out of engineering. I mean, even at all the companies that I've worked with, I was always like hanging out with the marketing guys, trying to
Yeah.
make videos when I could. Like, they're like, what's this engineer doing? Like, why is he like picking up the camera and like creating brand videos for us, So to be able to jump into it and do it full time for myself is pretty exciting. And then yeah, certainly maintaining relationships that I've had over the years with, friends that are like, hey, I think we have this symbiotic relationship here where what you're doing now can really help us is pretty exciting to, realize that I am building something that actually has value to companies and can help them grow and reach audiences and, do all the stuff that content does for us. So it's pretty fun and exciting to be able to help out in a totally new capacity.
No, it was super cool. You came out last year and we did a shoot in Williams, and it was in the winter and it was cold, and it was cool because we didn't have anything really planned. Just, hey, let's get some content and let's see if we can make a go at this. And you're still reusing that content right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
Create
still
stuff.
pumping out little video shorts and stuff out of that content.
And that's super rad. And then that conversation turned into, hey, do you want to go to the Gundies with us? And grab content for that. And I mean, you've got tons of content from the Gundies that,
Yeah. We haven't even used any of it yet, really.
we barely used any of it besides that
Yeah.
spur of the moment, like, let's get this out kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm super stoked to see you kind of even mesh those two on the projects that we have on a monthly basis stuff. So
yeah,
maybe we'll have something in the future. We can do some other like destination style, whether it's at a trade show or another, award style event. But it's fun. I mean, that's the thing. It's an easy yes, because I mean, you're getting some pretty sweet product out of it, which has some shelf life, which is super important. And then, I think it's just fun. I don't think we've ever had a shoot where you've been out that we haven't it's just been a great day or a great couple days.
Yeah. I mean, you really like can't not have fun when you're just like filming actual shooting, right? You're not faking it. Like, we're shooting guns and like I'm filming it. You can't lose in that scenario.
No. Yeah.
Speaking of Gundies, though, I think new registration is it live yet? I mean, are you guys going to do it again?
Yeah, I think we'll throw our hat back in the ring. Those are some great dudes over there, and they do a lot of brand management too over at Forge Relations. Yeah, we've talked extensively about them doing kind of similar to products that you do for us, and more on a relationship basis with other brands. And yeah, I think we're gonna definitely throw our hat back in the ring. I think we were a close second from the folks that beat us out there, but yeah, that's just a fun event, and
for
it's
sure.
fun people, and they put. I mean, you were there. I mean, the dinner spread was amazing.
Yeah.
The lunch was awesome. The venue was incredible, and they're doing it back at Drive Tanks again.
Yeah.
Which so yeah, I think if we get nominated, we'd love to do it again, and obviously have you out for that. But yeah.
We'll have to do it for sure. I think going to live events like that just gives you, I mean, you got to be pretty dynamic with your filmmaking, right? You can't like stage anything or tell anybody to do anything. You just kind of have to be adaptive, but it's pretty fun to just kind of capture those raw emotions and, high fives after shooting tanks and 50 cals and, all that stuff is pretty exciting, and getting to be at those venues, and then kind of being around a lot of the other influential content creators in the gun space is pretty fun and exciting in its own right. So kind of fun
It's
thing
a
there.
different group of people. We talk about this a lot. It's a very different group of people than I think you and I are used to interacting with on the corporate side of this business. Because just like you, I kind of run away from that corporate structure, the in the box style thinking, and it can hurt and help you. And there's pros and cons. There's reasons why you got to be organized. But I think the Gundies, I think what's really great with Forge Relations with that is, this is a different group. This isn't the bro vet group that, you go to SHOT Show and, it's 90% bro vets walking around with backpacks and, talking about the latest and greatest AR platform. And it's, I definitely get bored with those conversations, and I know you do as well. And
It's like snooze
have,
fest.
yeah, it's just it's taxing. So, and I think you bring a super cool perspective, because as a content creator now, you have that engineering background. So to go from that and be able to talk intelligently about, I mean, you and I were just talking the other day, like, I want full auto Maxim 9s. Well, I know the expert, he's sitting right here on how I can get some Maxim 9s running. And then my good friend and gunsmith Joey Swope just joined, and I'm sure and I haven't even told him about it yet. Like, hey man, I got a side project. Let's get some Maxim 9s rolling. So Joey, if you're still on, hopefully coming down the pipes here soon. But I think there's so much value in that than just being a content creator, because that only translates so far. Let's see, from Instagram, I think it's Opus Rolling says, he gave Rex a following, engineering background, myself, totally relate to wanting to pick up the camera, create content. And I would say the guys that didn't start holding a camera in their professional career, you have a unique eye. And I would, prefer to work with guys like that have that extra experience, because I mean, you unilaterally can look at stuff quite differently.
Yeah, there's a few, former military guys that have kind of turned into camera dudes now. One of the guys is Luke Quinn, that runs Clandestine Media. And it's super cool to kind of just see the different eye and the different aspect that they can bring into those shoots. Another one is Jim Staley, guy that runs Tac Gas. Same thing, former, I think he was MARSOC or, something in the Marines, some sort of badass in the Marines. And, just the way that they can attack creating content with an authenticity of being, high level operators, or like me, high level engineer, but also an enthusiast, been a firearms engineer for a long time and passionate about the outdoors and passionate about shooting. You come into those situations with a different eye than you would, coming in just as a photographer. Your average run of the mill photographer is going to be uncomfortable in that situation. Like, totally. I'm not going to be around that thing when you're shooting it, So it's kind of fun.
And we've done that. We've had photographers come out and have to be downrange with us. And there is a comfort level that, having you on range, we don't even think about it. It just happens. But, of all the professional videographers and photographers that we've had over the last 5 years, I would say the majority, there were barriers that we had to break through to get that content.
Yeah. Versus, and certainly, we're not trying to break any firearm safety rules or anything, but, just knowing those boundaries of what you can do and what you can't do while still maintaining, total safety is something that's valuable, but certainly getting into the weeds a little bit there.
Yeah. You brought up Jim from Tac Gas, and you introduced him to me at the Gundies last year.
Yeah, the Gundies, yep.
And would love it. Like Jim, like his stuff is just absolute, it's perfect, right?
It's insane.
I don't think there's anybody doing it right now. And it's funny because I follow him on Instagram now, and he's always in our backyard at Lake Powell.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, need to connect with him again and see if there's some collab stuff that we can do together. But love the fact, I mean, he's a fellow Marine. Like you said, he's picked up a camera and created, a highly successful company. The biggest brands in our industry work with him now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, I think he's certainly more business minded than he is creative minded. I mean, I'm not going to say he's not creative minded as well,
Right.
but I don't think he's the guy picking up the camera like ever, if
Right.
I'm not
Right.
mistaken. He's very much that entrepreneur of like, okay, I've got the connections. I kind of know how to do this now. Let me bring in the right people into the organization that are the super good camera guys and are the super good, you know, first ACs and all the things to create a production company. And he just brings in that talent to he's got a super legit production company that, that's doing 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 shoots. It's
Yep.
pretty insane. The budgets and the clients that he's able to work with. It's fun to watch.
Good benchmarks, good goals to go after, right? I mean, yeah, Jim, don't worry. I don't think Rex is going to start pounding your door down, but no, that's just, yeah. And you worked with him on some projects before you were solo, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've known him for a long time, just kind of through the shooting community there in Utah. He used to run like a super informal training thing where just a handful of guys would go out into the desert and he would kind of show us tips and tricks of how to run an AR and things like that. So, known him for a long time. He's got another company called Deliberate Dynamics that does some firearm training and long range stuff, and then they kind of do some gear sales too. I think he's kind of abandoned a lot of that stuff just to focus on tac gas. But yeah, I've certainly known him for a long time. But don't think we've ever like really worked together in a professional capacity.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just like it's super inspiring to see what people can accomplish. And for me to kind of be on a similar path of doing things with a camera and things with marketing and video, and it's exciting to see what they're capable of and kind of have something to aspire to. But seems like it would take a lot of money to get to that level. I mean, cameras that they're using on shoots are $150,000 cameras and stuff. So I don't know if they own them or they
Whole
rent
another
them. But
level.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've certainly got good equipment, but yeah, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. When we pick you up from the airport and you're like, I've got 2 bags and my carry-on and we're staying for 1 night or 2 nights, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have lots of good stuff.
Yeah. You don't know what you're going to need, especially when you're showing up to an event like that. Like, you just don't know. I think I ended up
Right.
only having to use most of the stuff that was in my backpack, but having those
That was
lights on
fun.
standby, you just don't know what's going to go on that night if you're going to need to bust out lights or whatever. So it's better to have and not need than need and not have.
Yep, that's right. Cold at night, right? Don't be cold.
Yep.
Right on. Well, what's the next cool project that you kind of got in the queue right now?
Yeah, so that deal that I was talking about earlier today, the $300,000 budget, that's with like a new diamond startup company. So kind of cool there. It's like totally different industry from
Diamonds are expensive.
what I'm used to. Yeah, but they've got some. I think they've kind of gone the friends and family route to raise some money, so they've got pretty good
Okay.
budget to spend over the next 6 months on some content and ads and stuff. So pretty excited about that deal. And if anything, if I don't get the job, it'll be an interesting learning experience. The guy that I've been working with is pretty low key, pretty easygoing. So I'll be able to have those conversations of like, hey, what happened? Why didn't I win that job? And what can I do better next time?
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. So, I've certainly worked on some like medium sized budget stuff, but nothing in the $300,000 range. So
Yeah.
that could be pretty exciting. A lot of the budget is for ad spend, so it's certainly not all
Sure.
just going to creative, but something that you and I are totally not used to doing in the firearms industry. Like,
Yeah, there's a
ad
little better
spend,
margin
what's
in
that?
a little bit better margins than the shiny rocks that people pick out of the ground, right?
Yeah, but like, we're just like not able to do any sort of content promotion with ads, so
Oh,
having a budget that's like probably 7 times larger for the ad spend than the content creation is like, whoa, okay, so that's how like the outside the firearms industry world operates.
Yeah. I can actually run ads. I can actually spend money.
Yeah.
Yeah. the Zuckerbergs of the world won't rip down half of my content.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is, I don't know, it kind of makes it interesting for the firearms community because it allows smaller players, like yourself, you own 3 gun ranges, you can go out there and compete on content with huge brands,
Yeah.
because like they can't just like bury your content with ads.
Yeah. They
So
can't
if you're
outspend
making
us in
good stuff,
that race.
then you're going to be able to compete and you're going to be able to show up just as often, if not more, than big brands. So I think it's a kind of a unique opportunity in the firearms industry to, kind of tilt the scale in the other way, rather than having a 70-30 split on your revenue shifted towards ads. You can have
Yeah.
100% of your spend going to content. So, for the same dollar amount, the level of content that you can make is exponentially better in theory,
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. No. And that is a unique, I mean, I guess that's that's the silver lining that you're talking about. But, from, my perspective, as a founder and a startup, I mean, we're out of the startup phase now for sure at 5 years, but, yeah, I would love to be able to say, hey, I want to dedicate X percentage of my marketing spend to actually purchase ad revenue. And as a former advertising guy that sold ad revenue, it'd be super fun to balance those metrics and play with how we can get the best, possible bang for our buck. But I don't even get to play in that space now. So
yeah.
I think, 1 out of every 30 or 40 ads that we attempt to run will actually get approved and run.
So you are able to sneak some in every now and then?
Yep. And it typically requires like getting outside of the instant no from the Zuckerberg algorithm.
Yeah.
So, you get the instant no or the no that comes back within 30 minutes. And then from there, it'll kind of snowball into, okay, let's do a rebuttal. And then they'll typically deny the next rebuttal. It's usually about the 4th or 5th rebuttal that we can get an ad to run. And then it's always questionable on how long it will run for.
Yeah.
And the nice part is, I mean, they don't steal your money. They don't take your money and then stop running the ad.
Yeah.
But when it happens, it's great. And we've seen some good runs from it on, training specific stuff, but never anything that's, to say, oh yeah, we need to, have a guy like Rex come in and just, keep writing rebuttals and keep getting content reposted, because it's just not there.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the interesting things. That it's interesting to know that you still can sneak some by, though. I mean, I wonder what grounds they kind of end up letting one pass, because it's like
I don't think there's a
trying to sell
logical
firearms with your ads. You're
No.
trying to get people into the gun range. So you have like a different, you have a different model where you're not necessarily advertising guns, you're advertising an experience,
Right.
but certainly gun related. So kind of a weird deal there.
Yeah, it's super frustrating when these companies, and obviously we're utilizing several of them right now as we stream. So, you bite the hand that feeds you. But just from a, from an end, from the user perspective, it's super frustrating when the company doesn't follow its own terms of services.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've never tried to run sales advertising that violate a term of service, whether it's selling firearms, ammunition, accessories, whatnot. And so that's what I think the most frustrating thing is we say, well, you get the naysayers say, well, you're just trying to get around their terms of services. And it's like, no, we're being very upfront about it. It's nothing to do with getting around terms of services.
Like we're totally within your terms of services. You just don't like what we do.
Yeah. And the really frustrating side on the Instagram side is you don't even get explanations. You just get a no and you get it shut off. And yeah.
And then they pull 10,000 of your followers away.
Exactly. And then what are we doing? We posted that video and it's going to do terrible now, but then you realize nobody else is looking at it. So it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, what a bizarre time to be living in. And we like to, I think in the firearms industry, we say, oh, we're the kind of the victims, But I mean, it does happen to other industries as well. You think about the alcohol industry, the tobacco industry is probably just as tough. So anybody that's involved with the ATF,
Yeah.
stand by.
I think that's where we could just point our finger and say,
Yeah.
seems like this one little spot is the sticking point for the whole country.
I know. I try to be really nice because the ATF, again, let's not bite the hand that feeds us here, because we work very closely with the ATF.
Yeah.
And we hold a lot of different licenses from them. And we just recently went through an ATF audit, which
fun.
is doesn't happen to a lot of folks, believe it or not. And I know the ATF's trying to do more, but I will tell you that the individual that was in charge of our audit was just a professional. From top to bottom. It was not a let me figure out how to get you moments at all. Was obviously very well aware of our social media presence, the fact that we were very active about it. I asked him prior to coming to the building, I said, okay, if we, film some of this content. He politely, said that he would not want to individually be in any of the content, which I understand. The social medias are not kind to that. But I did ask him, and I'm not going to say his name, we'll just keep it anonymous. But I did ask him. I said, how in the world is your social media manager for ATF headquarters at ATF HQ, I believe is their handle on both Instagram and Twitter. I said, how does that person still have a job? Like there's more hilarious. I mean, the stuff that they post, it's like they're asking for, freedom loving Americans to just openly blast them. I think the best one, you probably remember this, it was like National Dog Day. And it's like, okay, what does every person on the internet want to talk about? We want to go back to Waco and talk about ATF agents shooting dogs. And so I think they broke. That was like the pre-break of the Zuckerberg platforms right there.
Yeah,
that's probably what started the breakdown, was just that one post alone. So it's so bad. So bad.
They definitely give us a lot of content to work with. It's good. I mean, that's the risk, right? Of like making a ton of content is like, there's just so much of you out there that like people are going to be able to like pull little bits of what you say and like use it against you. It's like, whatever, don't care.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably a dozen things that I've already said that, Gunfighter does this and let's talk about
this is episode 20 of the live streams that I've been doing on my channel. My wife's like, aren't you worried that like you go into political office someday and they'll see those clips and they'll use them against you, because heaven knows you're saying crap that people aren't going to agree with. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I am who I am, and either they're going to elect me for who I am or not, but whatever.
Or let's have a healthy debate about it. Like let's talk about it. Everyone's a lot less. It's so easy to argue with folks on the internet, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But it just seems you get in front of people, and you can even, myself. I consider myself a Second Amendment advocate, and I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody, both online and in person. But boy, even the most staunch, you should never have a gun, that mentality. Those conversations are so much softer in person. And we have, and I think Joe Rogan had an entire podcast on this with Colin Neor. And just that's the difficult part of the whole thing is let's make that content accessible, and then let's get in front of each other and talk. And it's not so bad. But if you run for president, I will hold something against you. So
I don't think I'll ever get that far. Don't have enough money.
It does seem like that becomes more of the ticket. If you want a ticket to the ride, gotta have that cash.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk just briefly kind of what's on the horizon for Gunfighter. What cool stuff do you guys have in the works? I mean, tourism is down a little bit, so you guys are being creative about what you're doing, and what are you guys up to, and how does branding and content kind of fit into those plans?
Yeah. So, our business, like you said before, we're experience-based business. We're less of gun stores, more of let's go, Disneyland with guns. It's kind of the way we've always pitched our business.
Which is cool and unique within the firearms industry. Earlier we were talking about those neckbeard guys that show up to SHOT Show, right? And it's like, most gun stores are going after those guys, and you guys are like actively not going after those guys, you know? So
Yeah.
it's
And that,
cool,
you
but
know,
then
that,
it kind of puts you at the whims of what's happening in the tourism industry and COVID-19 and all that, you know?
right. So it ended up turning into, yeah, do we want to open that door and, actively market to those folks? Or do we want to kind of stay marketing towards the folks that wouldn't typically own a firearm? So that's where we stayed. So we didn't go, we'll say this, full neck beard. We did not go full neck beard. But we did have to become traditional gun stores.
Yeah.
And because the international tourism just didn't exist. So whether it was concealed weapons courses or personal safety courses tied into weapon sales that were then tied into, well, yeah, I think you need to shoot a machine gun. Those conversations, I think, it's just a second and third iteration of what we originally did. So on the horizon, Rex, we want to continue to kind of narrow our marketing platform and our messaging to that consistency. And when we don't have a guy like you on the team on a regular basis, and everybody can see it. You really start to go down that path of inconsistency, and nothing really looks the same. So I want to focus on that, prior to opening another location. We will be opening another location in Flagstaff, Arizona. So I'm super excited to have one of our facilities, and have my office co-located with that. So
Yeah, that's
that's
awesome.
like near future, which will be super fun. So yeah, in Flagstaff, the city's been super accommodating already. So I'm really, really stoked to get that off the ground. But because of COVID, it's not going to happen this calendar year. But yeah, I think we need to do a refresh on the firearms that we offer to the community, and customers. So I've been pretty kind of anti adding additional machine guns to the repertoire, but with us having to market to mostly American experience folks,
Yeah.
hey, that Maxim 9 could be a super fun rental gun. We've got a Glock 18, and we've played with a lot of different guns that we don't, offer to the general public for safety reasons. But I mean, shoot, I think we need to expand that. I think we need to look more into what, guys like Jim are doing with big brands like Call of Duty,
Yeah.
and say, how do we continue that driver?
Yeah.
But
How can we reach some of those other markets outside of that just traditional firearm guy? How do we get video gamers to want to come into the store? What would draw them in from a branding perspective to where, they would want to come to our gun range versus any other gun range? I think that's one of the things that you guys have really done successfully. And I don't know that it's necessarily totally apparent online, but like, you have a different experience when you come into a Gunfighter Canyon range or gun store. I mean, even if you're not coming to the range, like, you're treated differently from the second you walk into that store. And I think you guys have done a really good job of, hiring the right people that can achieve that kind of brand in their everyday interactions with customers.
Oh man, and now it's cool to hear you say that, because that's obviously something we've tried really, really hard to do, which is be a different. We're not a gun store, and good employees come and go, and you want to see people better themselves. And like Joey Swope is just on here, and he's no longer full time with us at Gunfighter, but very much a gunfighter, and been with the business for the duration of that we've been in business. So yeah, to keep that fresh, and it's a challenge. And I think you and I have talked about this, and it's still something that I'd love to explore, but getting into the Twitch realm, I think, could be, really beneficial for us. Again, not staying away from the traditional, hey, I'm a mom and pop gun store, or, I'm in a big national brand gun store, and this is what we do, but really stick with who we are. Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, important to you as a brand manager. Like, you got to be authentic to yourself.
Yeah.
The business in itself has its own authenticity. And when you stray from that, man, it is so apparent, both online and for us in store or on site at a shoot. So, man, the business has got to stay authentic to itself. And for me, as I think the face of the foundation of our business, we can't get away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I'm a big proponent of is helping kind of founders and people at the head of their organizations to kind of embrace the new digital world, and especially video, and kind of get in front of their brand and, help their brand have a face that people can attach to. I think that's something that's becoming more and more important as we get further and further away from, traditional face-to-face contact interactions in business. That's becoming less common, and as much as we want it to kind of go back to normal, like it's not.
Right.
So I think brands have an opportunity to kind of bring some of that personality and authenticity of their founders back into their businesses, as we can kind of get people involved in the content creation mechanism. So, obviously the majority of my income comes from creating content, but the other large portion of what I'm trying to accomplish is helping my clients make their own content.
Yep.
And kind of get ahead of the trend that I'm sure will just sweep the world in the next 3-4 years,
Right. No, and I'm curious. So, and I think we need to wrap up here in about 5 minutes or so, but I'm curious what your opinions are on, the CEOs of companies, leaders of companies embodying that brand. Where do you feel like is that something that is here to stay? Are we going to continue to say, hey, without having a face of the business, like Elon Musk, like, okay, when you associate SpaceX or Tesla, like you're associate it with his face,
Yeah.
and so where are we going with that? Do you think that's here to stay? That personalization?
I mean, I think businesses that choose to head in that direction are going to be more successful and have larger, more successful brands than businesses that choose to not go that route. You look at any sort of personal brands from any of the big founders, and their following is like 10x the following of their business. So you look at Elon Musk, I don't know what his following is, 30 million or something, but like Tesla's like 700,000 or something like that.
Right.
So people connect with other people. They don't connect with faceless business organizations. And certainly, there are brands, I'm not a coffee drinker, but like Starbucks, I don't know if people know who the CEO of Starbucks is, right? But Starbucks has created a brand, and you kind of, you still connect with the people at the Starbucks, but I think in general, like the leaders of businesses would serve themselves very well to kind of get in front of their businesses and kind of have a connection between what they do online and digitally and what their business does. I'm a pretty big believer that businesses that do that are going to be more successful, in the next 3 to 10 years as we kind of continue in the wave that COVID has created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you.
And I mean, I think you're an example of that already. I didn't have to come in and teach you that. You were already doing it, like your face and your persona is very much a part of Gunfighter, which, I mean, it can be good or bad depending on what the founder's vision is for their company. If their intention is to, grow it, hold it for 5 years and sell it, then you do want a little bit of distance there, potentially, because you can't be so ingrained in the business to where if you were to sell it, that the business kind of falls apart. So, I think certain businesses don't necessarily follow that trend, but I think in general, the more human connection we can add to brands and give customers a reason to care about what the brand is doing, the more successful they'll be.
Yeah. It's it comes back to that, like, personalization. It always does. You will get your haircut from someone that and that's got that personal connection. And you go, you think of all the things you do in life, usually involve around, those easy connections. Whether it's your local gun store to getting, your haircut, or, for me, like simple things, just like dropping a vehicle off to have, maintenance or work done on it. Like It's the same, but we get on social media all of a sudden, and we start putting these barriers up. And but yeah, I mean, does the average Joe know that Howard Schultz owns and founded Starbucks? Probably not. But Elon Musk, so prevalent, not just in his realm of science and sustainability, but I mean, he's a social icon now.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are, love to hate, right? The good and the bad, but boy, does he command an audience.
Yeah, for
Shiba
sure.
knew anybody? Yeah.
And I mean, you look at he's got this rivalry with Jeff Bezos, right? And they're always going back and forth about who's the richest man in the world or whatever. But like, Jeff Bezos isn't the CEO of Amazon anymore, right? Like,
Nope.
some other
No.
dude is.
Yep.
And I don't even have any idea who the other dude is.
I couldn't tell you his name.
So that's kind of an example where Jeff Bezos, for the longest time was the face of Amazon. And now that he's not, certainly I think it's to a point where it doesn't need his face attached to it. But I don't know how many businesses get to that point, where their founder is that ingrained in the business to where they can step away from it or sell it off and then still have the business remain successful. So it's certainly something to think about, depending on what business you're in. It might not make sense for you to be the face of the company. It might be build it around your employees, or I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. So short story is just make content, pick up the camera, pick up your cell phone, start posting stuff, whether it's text or pictures or videos. And, when you're ready to kind of elevate your brand and step into that next realm of professionalism, hire somebody to come help you out that can bring in some good equipment, some insight, and some creativity that'll kind of help take the brand to the next level.
Concur. You're only you get what you pay for, and you got to be willing to pay for it. And we can do so much with our iPhones and our Android devices, but boy, there is so much you can't do.
Especially if you don't have the eye for it. Like, the technology can only be so good.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the basic principles of how to compose different shots and what makes a scene look good and stuff like that, like, your iPhone pictures are only going to look so good. So the most important thing is to just make content. You look at Gary Vee, he's making a crap pile of content.
Most of it's not that great,
but some of it is really good. And a lot of it's just about the content itself rather than the production quality, but more of what he's saying and what he's talking about. So I think that's also pretty important to make sure that you're not just blabbing for 57 minutes about nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
which I feel like we've done a pretty good job today of like
we did. We burned a good hour. Some nuggets. I think we're right about a bingo time there. Yep. So thanks for having me on, and love to do it again, and maybe we'll kind of target a little more specific conversations and have some fun.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, thank you.
Yep, it was real to have you. I'll go ahead and I don't know. You can shut down Instagram Live whenever you want. Okay. I can end the stream, and then we can stay on here and chat a little bit before we all the way go bye-bye.
Cool. All right.
Anyway, we'll see you later.